Greetings, greetings, greetings once again to everyone that's out there, and that everyone has tuned in to Finding You Inside of You with Essence Evolve. And before we jump right into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow along and share this podcast with everyone that you know, because we're in a time now of ascension. That means that people's consciousness is ascending. That means that people are now beginning to critically think for themselves. That means that the subconscious minds in people now are beginning to say, what is this? What is happening? You may not always have the answer, but consciousness is arising on this global planet. And it is rising because you are beginning to tap into the idea of finding you inside of you. And as I've said on previous podcasts, the only person who can truly find you inside of you is yourself. And before we jump further into it, I have a guest today, and my guest is Veronica. And, you know, I'm like this. I'd rather have a person to just briefly tell you a little bit about themselves. I could tell you about Veronica, but who's better to tell you about themselves other than themselves? So I'm going to give space for her to tell you a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to jump into this hot topic. Go ahead.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you so very much, Essence, for inviting me to be on this episode of your podcast. Here I am, Veronica Israel. I am the host of Divine Discussions podcast. And I'm so happy to be here. We're, as Walt talked about, a collective consciousness. People are rising and their awareness is being more and more open. So we're so grateful for the opportunity to share in this endeavor.
Yes, and also I have my friend William. I don't know, are you on the screen?
I can put myself on the screen.
Okay, and
I'm on the screen now.
once you know, because I'm like this, you know, let's just keep it real. I'm just a down-to-earth person because, you know, when I found me inside of me, I found out that a lot of other people are having the same kind of epiphany, if you will. And so I believe in giving honor where honor is due, because it's not always about me. You feel me? Where some people are too afraid to share their space with other people. Some people are too afraid to give honor where honor is due. But anytime you're riding with me on my ship or my cargo, I always like to acknowledge other people, because we don't do enough of that. Because the ego wants to keep everything to itself. So, William, if you're on the screen,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
briefly just tell a little about you. And some of you, I'm sure you have seen William on my podcast before. But, William, what say ye about you?
I'm William. I'm on Second Chance Music and Production. I am a producer and an engineer. Also a pastor, but I just like to be called William. So I just like to, you know, for people to know me for who I am, without all the titles. But I am William, and I love what I do as far as music production, and absolutely love the Finding You Inside of You podcast series. And so just looking forward to seeing what's next.
All right. Well, let's just jump right in it. And this title is kind of a long title, but I do believe you're going to get the point. The topic today that we're going to discuss, the three of us, is the unknown, unhealed father wounds carried over into the pulpit from patriarchy. Now, that's like a deep dive, or a deeper dive, or dive it deeper into the rabbit's hole. I want to read that again because I want you to feel it. The unknown, unhealed father wounds carried over into the pulpit from patriarchy. So let me just lay a little bit of a foundation, and then we're going to jump right into this and discuss this. Many male pastors are not healed or healing from father wounds. So how did this father wound creep into the male psyche? So where am I going with this? Many men in the pulpit today, and I'm going to break it down into just Christianity, okay? But it can be global into any religion. But I want to break it down to real time in American Christianity. Many men in the pulpit today are wounded, unhealed, and ministering from a patriarchal, male-dominated mindset handed down to them unconsciously. And what is patriarchy? It is a system where men hold primary power and dominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, and that's a huge one right there. Moral authority, determining what is right and what is wrong for somebody else. Social privileges, what should you be your privilege, and it's based on the male mindset. And it inflicts pressures and expectations from men. It inflicts this on the masses of society, but within this context, Christianity. In religion, men are often placed in roles of authority, and God is the father figure, which male patriarchy mirrors this, and you find male patriarchy unconscious, dominating, and governing the church. Let's talk about that.
That is powerful, because when we talk about patriarchy and that concept in the pulpit, we're dealing with patriarchy in religion. We're dealing with many times a cultural thing, not the core principles of the faith tradition.
Right.
And when we have that understanding, we can help pick apart and dissect where this is coming from, as you said, unconsciously. And different cultures have already placed that God is a male concept, and they mirror that all right, well, men have the power, men have the authority to set moral standards. Not just for themselves, but for other people. But when you begin to search, find you inside of you, you begin to find out that what the behavior is influenced by. What is influencing your behavior? And a lot of times, if you're not healed and you don't have a proper concept in relationship to your father or to father figures, and even it spills over into your relationship with the higher power, and that begins to a downward spiral.
Yes. And you talked about the behaviors, right? And so we have to, in order to find you inside of you and why you believe what you believe, the traditions, the expectations, and within this context, we're talking about male patriarchy. We have to dive back and ask myself, why do I behave this way? Where did I learn this from? Because you're taking it into a bigger arena, and you're taking you, your father, your father's father's father, and you're taking white patriarchy along with you. Men are taking colonization ideas and theories, and they're not really realizing that you're perpetuating a narrative. But when you have not healed from your own father wounds, we mirror that into a congregation. For example, father wounds refers to abandonment, emotional neglect, abandonment, disregard, mistreatment, emotional scars strange from a dysfunctional relationship with one's father, or absenteeism, or being critical, or excessive control or criticism. Now, when you look at patriarchy, from that context of male patriarchy dominated a church. Because, see, the male, through white patriarchy, colonialism, was designed to conquer, destroy, and take over. And when you look at that male energy or male spirit that is up in the pulpit, and you don't know where you got that from because of your woundedness of your father, and then who taught your father's father's father, you find that authoritarian type of governing coming from the pulpit in a church. And you're finding more and more and more people now that are waking up to that I don't want to be controlled. I wasn't designed to be controlled. And you're finding more people are beginning to leave the church.
Great exodus. It's a great exodus because, as you said, about being controlled. A lot of times when people feel that they don't have control over themselves because they haven't found who they really are, and they are wounded and have not, some people are not even conscious that they are hurt and need to be healed. And so when you come to the pulpit, or the so-called the sacred desk,
Yes.
as one that's supposed to be speaking on the behalf of the divine, that's your understanding, you have to come from a healed place, because if not, you begin to spill all of that over to the congregation, to the other people who you're supposed to be inspiring and leading. But when you're not coming from a healed place, you spew things and it gets filtered in, because sometimes you're not even conscious. You're
Not
even
at all.
conscious that these things are at work, that patriarchy is at work. And as you said about colonization, many a times people haven't done the work to decolonize, so their perceptions about things when they rise and mount the pulpit is only perpetuating things, not truth, but regurgitating things that have gone down to the line, where many of us in the black church community have learned from chattel enslavement.
Learned behavior.
That's it.
It's a learned behavior.
That's it.
And so, patriarchy, and we're still talking within the context of the pulpit, okay? The leader, right? Patriarchy has wounded men in these following ways. Because, see, if you're wounded, how are you going to heal someone else? And if your wound is unconscious to you, then the ego causes you to not have a check and balance. Because this is the divine God, Father, who is speaking through me. And then, the revelation hasn't even come to some in the pulpit that you cannot even define this God or this it, like I call it now. It's like whoever you are, okay? I know that there is a divinity or something greater than we can even imagine. And so when you call on this Father, so you have given it a gender. You feel me? You've given it a gender, right? And so what that does, that sends out that message, a strong message from the pulpit. And when you have mostly men in the pulpit, that I am the authority. And there's nothing wrong with leadership, but if the leadership is an unhealed leadership, okay, because you are not healed from your father wound, and guess what? We've all have had parental wounds. We all have had them. But the thing about it is, when you don't understand that the healing has to come from the inside of you, and when you find you inside of you, you realize that a lot of the things I was taught, be it your mother or your father, they were not scriptural. Let's just throw that part in there. And they were not correct. But when you are not doing your shadow work, that means that you are looking within yourself and asking yourself, why do I behave like this? And I want to say this and I want you to jump back in. Patriarchy, this is what patriarchy has done to men. And coming from the pulpit, discourages men to express their emotions or to seek out help. Why y'all out there crying and carrying on? I'm pretending like I'm the male pastor. Why y'all out there crying and carrying on? Just get over it. It doesn't take all of that. This is what I said. You see how that authoritarian has kicked in inside of me? And I'm ruling, not nurturing. I'm ruling from a masculine space. But who taught me that? Okay? It expects men to be aggressive, to be tough, unemotional, and the need to be in control, to succeed and to conquer, which is to dominate, and to promote dominance and control rather than working as a team or in a cooperative environment. And see, that's what is carried out from patriarchy and unconscious to male-dominated Christian churches who some actually believe that a woman has no place standing up here talking about what we're talking about. Because there is no balance of the male and the female that is within all of us. And that's a whole other subject right there. But I don't want to get off my point. But when you have unhealed father wounds, and you're a leader in a Christian church, and most of them are pastored or shepherded, or however you want to define it, by the male-dominant mindset, it doesn't leave any room for creativity or anyone else to add to the expansion. Matter of fact, there isn't an expansion, because if the pastor's not expanding, the people are not going to expand. Thoughts?
That point right there. When it comes to leadership, one has to always keep in mind that you have to keep evolving, keep expanding your consciousness, your awareness, your understanding of yourself and those you're connected to. And not with leadership, it goes beyond masculinity or femininity. A leader has to have a balance of masculine and feminine energy, has to be able to nurture and at the time know how to bring correction. But when one is moving and coming from the spectrum of patriarchy, all they know how to do is be quote unquote stern, Victorian. All they know how to do is be one way, because that's the concept that are in their mind. And they've been taught that you cannot show emotion. A man is not supposed to cry. A man is not supposed to show their feelings. But when it's the opposite, you show your humanity. When you show that you can be affected by things that are going on, that you have compassion, that garners people closer to you. But when you're coming from a healed place, that's what happens.
And I will be bold enough to say from a healed place, which is, what you said. I just want to emphasize that. From a healed place. And the way to come from a healed place, and we're going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes, this part of this, and we'll be coming back and sharing more. But you have to go inside of you to ask yourself, what makes you tick? What makes you be aggressive with people? And I'm talking about pastors now. What makes you aggressive with people? Who taught you that you had to be the moral temperature for humanity? Who taught you that you had to govern or lead from an authoritarian perspective? That means that I have to rule. Because when you come from that mindset, then what you are a macro manager. Macro, M-A-C-R-O, manager. That means that you have to see what's going on right here. See, that's that male energy, because the male dominant energy has to control. So when you're governing as a pastor from the pulpit, and you have to oversee everything, you're micromanaging. I have to see what's going on right here. I have to see what's going on right here. I have to see what's going on right here. Who taught you that? Because on the inside, somewhere down the line on the inside, you had a very domineering father. That's tight, but it's right. And you see, when you go inside of you, you have to ask yourself, how was I raised? What kind of father did I have? Was my father nurturing? Was my father present? Or did my father always command that I suck it up and be strong? And boys don't cry. And boys are supposed to do this. And boys are supposed to do that. And I will end with saying this, and you know, just say whatever you need to add to this. I have seen this pattern because boys and men do cry. They do. They may not let you see you. But you take going to a funeral and they lose their mother or somebody close to them. That yin and yang, that male and female within them, that emotions that come out, that right brain side really kicks in, that feeling side, oh, they're going to shed some tears. And guess what? They don't care who sees them. But it's like, I can only do that in spaces like that where it's the norm. So as you go inside of you and find you inside of you, leadership and pastors out there, you've got to do the self-healing. Because what you're doing, you are projecting that onto the people that is sitting and listening to you. It's time for the leadership, those that are the pastors and those that are in a male pastor, to examine your beliefs, your traditions, and how you govern the way that you do, and then ask yourself, why am I so aggressive? Why is it that I have to be in charge of everything? What kind of father did I have? What kind of men were I around in my family? Share your last words for this part, and then I'm going to close us out.
Wow, powerful. From age 0 to 7,
Mm-hmm.
our paradigm is being shaped. Our mind, we have no resistance. The receptacles of our mind are open to everything that is poured in us.
Yes.
And so when you, as male pastors in the pulpit, when you find out that you need to do some shadow work, you have to go back to that time frame on up and find out how was your consciousness shaped and formed, and to begin to do the work to undo that and to shift your paradigm, shift your hard ride that you will ride. But it can be done, but it takes a million mind and a commitment to do the needful. That's
Yeah.
the only way it will take place, and you will find that your life become fruitful because of it, and all those around you will benefit.
Yes. So this is Essence Evolve, supporting you in finding you inside of you. Because the you inside of you wants to be your authentic self. And as you begin to search for the you inside of you, you are going to find the good, the bad, and the ugly, like I've said on previous podcasts. And guess what? That's okay. And that's a part of doing the shadow work. That's the part of us that we don't see. But if you want to be, quote unquote, made whole, and made whole is simply returning back to your original self. So this is Essence Evolve. Hit that subscribe button, share, and we're looking forward to coming back to you with the next series, the next part 2 of addressing patriarchy in the pulpit today is still alive and well. See you soon.